You've caused me harm, injury and loss. I'm taking you fuckers to the cleaners. Cough.
I love it.
That's it. And you tie them into a... That's it.
Welcome to part 3 of the Strawman to Lawman presentation. In this 4-part series, Gavin and Damian unravel some of the myths, lies, fraud, and facts about the legal system and share real-life case studies and additional insights so that you can become well-informed, empowered, and better prepared to protect yourself and your family. We've presented a lot of useful information here, so if you've missed parts 1 and 2, now would be a good time to go back and start from the beginning so that you have a full understanding of everything being presented. Remember, you have the power. All you need is to know how to use it.
That's the thing. Everything's on Google. It's all there. It's all online these days. You know, I was interviewing Dr. Graves yesterday, the course creator of How to Win in Court. And he was saying exactly the same thing, that, you know, we don't need to do law school. We don't need to spend he said it's a waste of time. And this guy's a qualified, professional attorney in America, 38 plus years experience. And he's saying it's all on Google. So the reality is, guys, is that we don't have any excuse anymore. You know, you're now with the knowledge that Damian's putting out there. We have no excuse other than really the choice that you make to not learn and take this knowledge further.
I totally agree. And we're going to show you remedies. I mean, for example, I'll now come, and that's something you guys need to drill down on. You know, so it's not enough to argue in your paperwork, well, I'm not a resident, I'm not a person. I've just shown you how to say it, and this is why. This is the evidence. Using the rules of interpretation and statutory construction, I can show you why. They can't get past that, guys. You shut them down and you'll get your settlement. People are saying, well, I want the meters up, I want this, that, and the other. Listen, it's the only way that's going to happen is with a lawsuit. And when they get that lawsuit and the legal team look at it, they're going to want to have a meeting with you, right? And in that meeting, they're going to determine whether you can litigate that lawsuit or whether you've got it off the fucking internet, right? They're going to want to see whether you're a chump or a champ. Right? And the champ's going to walk in there and say, see you, mate. You've caused me harm, injury and loss. I'm taking you fuckers to the cleaners. How's about that then? Right? Now, they're going to say, all right, well, let's bring you to the settlement table. What do you need? What can we do for you? So, right, now you are going to be contractually obligated to me. I'm going to create a contract and I'm putting your names on it and you're going to sign it. Okay? And this is going to be concurrent for my property in my lifetime. All right. So I want my property off the VOA listing. I want to be off your taxing roll. Okay. In perpetuity, which means forever. Right. You're also, as per your legislation, you have the authority. It says in there, the Local Government Finance Act 1992. You're going to speak to these right, at the energy companies, right, and their secondary legislation is subservient to yours. You're going to get them to come round and take my meters off, and you're going to get them to eat humble pie and say sorry to me personally, right? Okay, and then you're going to promise that you're never going to come near me again. You're never going to bother me, and for my troubles, you're also going to pay me this. Okay, now f*** off.
I love it.
That's it. And you tie them into a contract that you have created, because contract law supersedes everything. You've come up with a common law agreement, and in their little commercial world, contract makes the law. That's it. And this is something I'll go on that with regards to, actually, this is very important. You guys, the viewers, are going to be getting this book. Okay. Now, in here, this is important. I'm going to go back to, I'm jumping around again. I'm going to get back to my daughter's thing in a minute. But it's just brought me on to something else with regards to contract law, which is a very fundamental principle. Now, I hope that answers some of the comments with regards to, oh, what my meters are. Listen, you're going to have to drill down on all this other stuff. It's all tied in, and you're going to have to know how to litigate, put together a lawsuit. If you've got it right, it'll never go to court. They can't let it go to court. They'll get you around the settlement table. But by then, you'll be so empowered by the jurisdictional courts. And all your reading, and I've given you the principles, okay, of what to do and how to do it. I've given you a massive head start there, okay? You need to drill down on this. Right. Secondly, contract law, dealing with debt collection agencies, right? I had one come through, and you'll laugh, Gavin, you'll like this, because again, Gavin knows me. He knows I have no fear of these. You know, once you understand what they're doing, their letters, their paperwork are designed psychologically to promote fear. Okay, but when you actually read through what they're saying, it's utter nonsense. They have a foundation of nothing. It's like building your house on sand, biblical principle. You need a solid foundation of truth. And this is why everything's falling apart in society. Now the narrative's gone because it was built on a foundation of lies. You know, look at what we've just been through for the last 3 years and the narrative that's falling apart there. But anyway, with the foundation of contract law, you've got something solid. Now, Gavin, I know, he could correct me if I'm wrong, he's very au fait, and he would attack the fact that they don't have something called a deed of assignment or novation. Okay, he's very au fait with that, which means, you know, sort of ownership, a deed of ownership, or a right, a third party right. Now, I would attack it on a contractual level using the common law doctrine of privity of contract. It's a remedy, which means the third party doesn't have the right to enforce those terms within the original contract. But you can break it down even more basically. These debt collection agencies say that they have bought the debt, when I have read so many contracts, all they ever have is they bought a block of your data and information. This is what I'm saying. Data is the new currency. Okay, and there's a reason for that. And I'll tell you why on a spiritual level, this might be a bit much for people, I don't know. But data is to feed the behemoth of the false god that they serve, which is AI, which is Lucifer. Cipher being information. Lucifer, right? The light bearer, the false light information. That's their God. It's being incorporated in AI. This is why data and information is the new currency. But anyway, I'll step back from that. That might be a bit much for a few there. I don't know. I think people's consciousness should have raised by now, and they can see they're in a war of information and a spiritual war.
On that note, just a quick one. If that isn't too much, let us know in the comments, because we could definitely dig into a lot of that subject matter, a lot more than we are on this video. So let us know what's resonating and what maybe you want to hear more of, because we're happy to do it.
So let's go back to more physical, three-dimensional earthly things. And it is a realm, as it's explained in the early constitutional statutes. They'll always tell you it's a realm. So that's got a lot of spiritual connotations to it. Okay. So anyway, let's come back to the common law doctrine of privity of contract. There's one of your remedies. Read up, look into that, and it's also in here, right? Secondly,
can I just, sorry, quick one, just for the folks that don't know, privity of contract, just wanted to quickly explain what that actually means. Or
right.
Whatever way you want to cut it.
No, that's fine. It's the right of a third party to enforce the terms and conditions of the original contract. But they have to be written in. All the contracts I've looked at and pulled apart, they only have the the person, the so-called lender, even though they're not a lender because you're the creditor, and the reason you're the creditor, the minute you put pen to paper or you tick that little box in the legal agreement under the Credit Agreement Act, right? They print that off and they monetize that immediately. That is now a financial instrument. They'll sell that as a security. They'll sell that on the security futures market, something you need to look into. So they've monetized that. They have the money. You've created that credit. But let's come back from that. In that credit agreement that you've signed, that so-called contract, they only ever have the right to sell on your data and information, never that they can sell an alleged debt. Okay? Which is why Gavin would attack the deed of assignment that they don't have, or novation. Okay, I come at it from this is what Gavin says. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and he's right. I go at it the contractual method, which is using the doctrine, the common law doctrine of privity of contract. B, can you provide me evidence giving me a copy of the original agreement that you know that they don't have, because that's been sold on at the securities future market. It's gone. It's been monetized. It's a financial instrument. The minute you put signature to it, that's gone. That's making money out there in the ether, right? So without evidence of the alleged debt, it's hearsay, isn't it?
No right of claim.
They've got no substantive evidence, and this is where this burden of proof comes in.
And that's fraud, guys.
Exactly. So can you provide me, so you can knock it out just for that, can you provide me evidence of the alleged debt in the form of the original signed by me contract agreement? Can you do that? They'll never produce it. They'll run for the hills. And if they can produce it, just say they've sat on it and they haven't monetized it, which is incredibly rare. It's unheard of, right? Great. Well, then here's another way you knock them out. Thanks for that. You provided evidence. Well done. Okay. Well, now we go to Contract Rights of Third Parties Act 1999, right? Can you provide evidence in this contract, right, where it specifically says under Section 3 of the Contracts Rights of Third Parties Act 1999, this is where you use the legislation protecting you, don't be fearful of it, against them, it governs them, right? Show me in this agreement where the third party must, right, it says here, the third party must be expressly identified in the contract by name. I've never seen it in any contract. So they sell your data and information to the highest bidder. That's the way it works. They will never have in that original agreement somebody expressly identified by name, that they have the right, that third party expressly identified by name has the right, the power, right, to enforce the terms and conditions of that original agreement. So A, they never have the original agreement of the alleged debt. 2, they can't get past the common law doctrine of privity of contract. 3, if they produce that agreement, that original agreement, ain't going to happen. But if they do, they've then got to get past this specific piece of legislation, the Contracts Rights of Third Parties Act 1999, that says the third party, Section 3, must be expressly identified in the contract by name. That's it. That's contract law, folks. It's there.
How simple that is, guys, though. They're not in the contracts. They're not in the original agreements. And that's really as simple as it gets. If you're new to this and you're just sort of tackling these debt collectors, as long as you express that information in the correct way, you may not know how to litigate at that point, and you may be thinking, well, I don't even know how to defend. But if you've got that across in the right way, there's a very high probability that that will see them stop. They may respond back and try and rebut you and put you off and whatever. It doesn't matter what they're telling you. What matters is your comprehension of that contract or the contract law. And when you put your information across, as I say, they go quiet. Generally, they go quiet. Their only other recourse there is to put a claim in against you, but they'd be bloody stupid to do that after you evidencing the facts, because they are overtly committing fraud. The thing about fraud, it's very hard to bring a claim for that unless you can prove the intent to do it. So if you've expressed the information ahead of time and they then bring a claim at you, you have your intent. They are committing fraud, and now you can go really take them to the cleaners. So keep it simple.
With the Gavin, with the jurisdiction recourse, you're going to file a counterclaim. You're going to knock them out the park. And believe you me, they'll want you to pull that counterclaim once they get a copy of that paperwork, and they'll come to a settlement with you. And believe you me, you'll be taken off all their lists. They'll leave you well alone.
I mean, that's actually our strategy. Just so you guys know, if we're assisting you with debt collectors, we bake them into actually filing the claim, and then it's a simple defence and counterclaim. They never go forward with it. It never happens, for the reasons that Damian just said.
Well, see, with this specific one, what I normally do, what I've been doing with this particular bunch of numbskulls, nincompoops, what I've done with this firm is I normally just put, because I can't be bothered to deal with them, right? So I just put not known at this location, return to sender. And I was going to spend the next 6 years costing them the postage when they send me every month, and then just return it, right? Until it's statutory barred in 6 years' time. And I reckon I would have probably cost them about 100 quid in postage by then. Right? That's standing in your power, because you know they have nothing. But I just so happened to open this one, and there was a reason, something intuitively told me, and I know what it is. I asked and I received the information. Ask and you shall receive, right? And basically it said, right, once you've finished everything you're doing, right, you're going to have some fun with this, and you can go through it step by step, so other people can see what you're doing. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to set them up for a lovely lawsuit, which they'll settle with me about Christmas time, which I can then spend that money on my children. And come January, when the kids are back in school, I'll take them out of school during term time and take them on holiday. You know, courtesy of the debt collection agency. Thank you very much. Now, I even just perusing through their, and there was a stack of paperwork. I saw very quickly they had nothing, absolutely nothing. They even named me as a natural person. Now, I've already explained what a natural person is. There's the trickery employed, and I've told you how you can knock that out with the rules of interpretation. Simple. So hopefully that gives you some guidance and some understanding, you know, using the power of contract law. And that comes back to your book. It's all in there. So, and just for the record, I was very excited. I had some books come through today, and this is obviously intuitively, I bought these off eBay. £4 for 4 law books, 2 family law, which is not an avenue I've been in, but it's obviously somewhere where I'm being guided to go. So I'll probably have some poor soul locally that's going to come to me needing my help with regards to family law, but I'm going to enjoy reading these. So key cases and key facts, £1 each. Normally retail at £7 each. Constitutional and administrative law, key facts, key cases, £1 each. Read, research, guys. £4 for the lot. So where was I? My daughter, she came to me, and this again, this is I love this stuff, because this was a huge learning process for me. I had to read some more legislation to counter the overdevelopment of this particular council, who are obviously tied in with property companies, right? And enjoying, I would imagine, brown envelopes, backhanders. You know, it's utter corporate greed. Now, this town where she lives, they've absolutely destroyed it. Over the near 40 years that I lived there, it's a very small sailing and farming community in Essex. And it's just, they've never had, it's one road in or out. It's the end of the road, right? They've destroyed it. The council have destroyed it with overdevelopment, and you know that they're tied in. They always use the same two property developers, and you know, if you were to then go into who's sitting on those boards, if you were to go into, this is where the research comes in. Now, I haven't had the time to do that. I can just see the greedy nature of their behavior. And, you know, it doesn't take a lot of common sense to work out if you don't have the services, the infrastructure, right? And you've already destroyed the town, and you've got all the surrounding towns with placards along the road saying no more development, leave our farmers' fields alone, you know, and you're going against the local population's wishes, then there's a problem. Now, I believe I've shut them down. I've shut down not just this proposed development, and they put one sneaky notice on one telegraph pole in this estate where my daughter lives. And she said, nobody's going to see it. But when I drilled down on their traffic, on the, and this is important, on the town and country planning development management procedure, England Order 2010. So I read the rules and regulations that govern them. I read those back to front, and I found those on the internet. I just Googled, and I did a lot of reading. I read, and then I read, and then I read again. I go and sit in the garden, have a cup of tea, right? Then I come back in, I read it some more.
What? I like to read.
And process it till it sinks in. That's what you have to do. You've got to be stubborn, right? So I then held them to their rules, and they're just leaving one notice in a sneaky location. They're allowed to do that. It's in their rules. But I did state, as per that development management procedure order 2010, that the proposer's development does, capital letters, not accord with the provisions of the development plan in force in that area. It's bang. So that's the first fence they've got to jump. That's the first hurdle. Okay. 2, reasons for objection. And I've highlighted, right? And what I did, and this was very, very interesting, and it really laid out where all these directives are coming from. It gave me a whole load more homework to do, because I read the council's charters. I read their pledges. Now, a pledge, and it's on their website, so it's on public record. This is how you hold them accountable. This is important. A pledge, as I've explained to them, is, sorry, because I can't remember everything, I have to read. I will remind the council what a pledge is. 1, commit a person or organisation by a solemn promise. 2, a thing that is given as a security for the fulfilment of a contract or the payment of a debt and is liable to forfeiture in the event of failure. Wow. So the 5 pledges they put on record that I've now used against them, right? They're liable to forfeiture in the event of a failure. Or they're in breach of a solemn promise. Do you see how this stuff works? It works against them. Guys, read up. Now, their 5 pledges, and this is what I put down in my reasons for objection, they can't get past any of it. And I used, they're signed up to the UN directives. And this is something I'll be getting at them. I'll be attacking them in the future using FOIA requests and DSALs, finding out where they get their authority to do what they're doing. But that's another matter. I used hold on, which legislation? I used the climate. No, I didn't even know that this existed. The Climate Change Act 2008. Now,
I didn't know that existed either. Bloody hell. No.
Right. I dug out that legislation, and in it, it says that the local authorities have to adhere to local to a level of carbon budgets. In the Climate Change Act 2008, local authorities have to adhere to a level of carbon budgets. So if you've got a road council overdeveloping, destroying your town, you're getting sick of the overdevelopment. Everyone's sick of it, the population, and they're ignoring. You can use this piece of legislation against them. You read their charters, read what they're signed up to, look at their pledges, their promises they put on public record. And I've held them to those 5 pledges. And they're all part of this net zero. And I've explained 100 more properties. Right. Well, that's you're gonna go over your level of carbon budgets pursuant to the Climate Change Act 2008. I've not just shut down this proposed development, I've shut down all future developments in this town.
I just want to make a real good point here, because we're all victim to the overreach of these councils, and they've been getting away with it for so long, and we're obviously waking up to it. And what I'm hoping you're seeing with Damian is he's one man that's just done that. You don't need a group of people. You don't need some big old community outreach thing to go and do this stuff. It's just you. It starts with you. And this goes back to the point of standing in our power. We have a lot of power. We just didn't know it. And this is what this moment in time is about. So I'm hoping you're seeing with Damian, a little bit of research, going through the legislations. You can always assume, okay, that these buggers that are doing this stuff are ignoring all of the relevant legislation that says they can't do this stuff, because they know that most people are ignorant and either don't know how to do anything or simply won't do anything. Apathy is the reason a lot of us are in this situation right now, our collective apathy. And that's now got to stop, guys. So hopefully you're seeing how simple this can be. Damian's doing this on his own, and he's shutting an entire council down from doing any future developments. Bloody powerful stuff, and no court.
Now, 2 pages, just outlining their public promises on public record, the legislation they're governed by, using that against them. You know, I've showed in their own legislation, any future development now, anything, not just this proposed development, I've shut it down, is in contravention of the level of carbon budget set out by the Secretary of State. They can't get past that. I've also explained, with regards to a pledge, I'll say it again, a thing that is given as security for the fulfillment of a contract or the payment of a debt and is liable to forfeiture in the event of failure. I've put here now a forfeiture in this case could be in the form of a winning lawsuit, namely the People versus Council, should the named entity and its principals liable in both individual and official capacities. Now, I'll tell you what that means. Official capacity is their role as the public servant. They're indemnified for that. So I would be dinging their indemnity insurance the minute they get a lawsuit. But their individual means I can come after their houses, their pensions, their cars, take the clothes off their bent backs, right? If they not fulfill their obligations, their duties to those whom they serve and the legislation that binds them. I've left them in no doubt. I'll come after you, right? And what we also did, we did a media campaign. I fucking blitzed them. I did a template outlining my points. I did the legal paperwork, 2 pages, bang, right? Which would have gone to their legal team because it went to their principal, and that would have put the cat amongst the pigeons. They'd have been shit in pickles. And they'd have said, he's right, because I put down the evidence. Go on, sorry.
I've literally just had an idea as you're talking about this, and this is live, not pre-rehearsed or anything here, guys, so I don't even know what Damian's going to say to this question. That documentation that you've got, could it be provided in a framework for everybody to use as a framework, not a template, guys, I'm going to be really clear about this, a framework to basically replicate what you have done with their own councils, because we're all dealing with the same stuff. We know what's being rolled out. This is the sort of stuff that you can even use and tweak for the 15-minute city bullshit as well. So would you be open to that? And is it something we could even do, Damian?
Yes.
And feel free to say no.
No. Yes. No, I say yes, but they need to then do the research, going on their council's website and looking at their charters, looking what they've signed up to, and looking at the pledges, the promises, the commitments they've made. So they could use this as a reference point and copy and paste the majority of it, because they can't get past that act, that legislation, and the legal definition of what a pledge is. They can't get past that. Now, the second thing we did, because I know people are inherently lazy and they're busy. So I said, Enya, right? I don't go on Facebook, social media, because it's a communist tool, and the way they shut people down, the censorship during the Covidius minimus era, I thought, no, it's very toxic. It turned man against man. Anybody that didn't go along with that narrative and spoke out rationally against it was shut down by some brainwashed, programmed, toxic individuals. I came far away from that. That was a lifestyle choice. And I'll tell you, my life is infinitely better for not being on those social media. Right, I said, Enya, my daughter, right, I've fired off the legal letter, right? Their principal will have signed for that. Their legal team will look at it and it shuts them down. Not just this proposed development, all proposed development. They cannot get past it, okay? And they know this has been written by somebody that knows what they're talking about, right? I put substantive evidence. I put the facts in law. They can't get past that. It's not an argument. This is fact, okay? Always produce the evidence, the facts for what you're saying. They can't get past it. That's how you shut them down. I said, right, now what you're going to do, my little love, right, you're going to get on Facebook and you're going to get all eyes on the council, because when people are up to no good, when you shine light on darkness, right, they don't like it. They run for the hills. So I said, I will give you a very simple template that all they need to do, just with the bullet points of why people are objecting and the legislation that supports them, in a very small email. All they've got to put is their name, address, okay? That's it. Fire it to this email address of the council. I did the hard work. So all the population, the youngsters, this went viral locally, and they blitzed that council. Blitzed them. And that says to them, oh my God, we've had an unprecedented response. There's thousands of people emailing us against this proposed development. Plus, we've received this legal letter threatening future legal action and having supporting legislation. They're going to have to tell that, no, forget it. That's how you do it. It's numbers, get eyes on them, and that's a community response, and then get somebody that's au fait with legal framework and writing legal letters and shut them down. That's what I do here. I put the common unity into community. I'm pulling this community together. Forget what's going on at government level, right? We've got really no control over that, and we need to marginalize that, stop funding criminals. That's the first thing, right? What we need to do is put the common community into our communities. Get together, learn the law, start loving thy neighbor, pulling from the strength of the community and sorting out our local authorities. That's where the power is. It's them that are causing you the harm, the problems. And you've got to educate these people, your public servants, because they know not what they do. They have no idea. They're following processes. Gavin, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I'm really loving these chats. I'm really glad you guys are getting to experience Damian, because I've known this man for a couple of years now. We've become good friends, and I'm just glad he's here now talking to you guys, so you can see what he knows, the way he communicates it. It's all very straightforward. He simplifies it to a really simple degree, actually, so that we can all use this information. So I think with that said, is there anything more you want to dig into? Or if not, we can bring this one to an end now.
No worries. I've got lots for another time. What I would like to say, I'd like to address and this is a good remedy to help the guy that was saying about road tax. And in essence, what he's saying is right. Is not the DVLA road tax commercial? Yes, and there's a lot of arguments saying that public highways, we've been lumped in as another entity, a driver. There's that argument for private conveyance and vehicle. And look, what I would say is this: take a step back and pick your battles. You've got to understand that our roads are probably one of the most highly policed, highly cameraed source of huge financial revenue. They're not going to let go of that anytime soon and very quickly. So there's ways around it. Now, I shall put in a disclaimer. This is not legal advice, but I may have done this, and this may work for me, and I may have done this for some time and can speak from the heart here. And if my truth resonates with you, this is something you can do. But if you're going to ask me after I tell you, you're going to put in the comments, well, yeah, what company you use? This or that. No, research. Go and look for yourself. Stop giving your authority and power to me. Now, I'm going to tell you what I may have done, where you can ring fence your vehicle in exactly the way that these companies ring fence liability by using a PO box address. Okay? Right. What I may have done is created my own fictional legal entity called a trustee, where I assume no liability for that entity. I've dissociated myself from that. Now, that entity might be registered with the DVLA at a PO box address, so that if I incur any parking tickets, if I'm not frightening off parking wardens, right, with the law, if I was to incur, say, with a cameraed parking ticket where I can't actually tell them to bugger off, and this is why, then when my alleged PO box address receives that fine or PCN, okay, which is a fine and illegitimate and void, they know it and I know it. I can possibly, having power of attorney over that legal entity called trustee, action that to be returned to sender. And we can play the game of ping pong, which costs them over time postage and costs me nothing. And I have a ring fence the vehicle because it is registered at another address far away at a non-contracting venue called a PO box under a legal entity title of trustee, which also helps if you had a bailiff problem, if they were actually a real bailiff, a certified bailiff. Because the first thing these f***ers like to do, they're magnetized to cars. They love cars, right? They probably go home over cars. It's the first thing they go for, okay? This is what you're up against. So to peel these f***ers off your car like you would a limpet from a rock, right? You've ring-fenced it. The first thing they do is look at all the number plates. If you're having an issue with, if it were a real bailiff, a certified bailiff, with a real high court writ, with a real judge's signature on it, okay, they would then have the ability to seize goods, okay? But it's very rare that you get the certified with the correct, right, judicial writ, okay? But you've ring-fenced that because that isn't in your name. They can only take the goods of the debtor. Yes? So that isn't in your name and it's registered to an address very far away. That may be what I've done, and that may help you negate this system rather than you arguing with the fucking police on the side of the road that you're a private man in a private conveyance and they're just going to say, off, here's a fine, or they're going to take you in. They don't understand.
To be the trustee on that, you obviously need to place the vehicle into a trust.
if that's what you may want to do.
If that's what you may want to do.
You don't even have to do that. You're creating a legal entity.
So in regards to creating the legal entity, can you explain how to do that to the folks watching?
No, I just simply said to the DVLA, I want you to register this vehicle in the name trustee, private trust, at this PO box address. So you have to then go and find a PO box address. There's plenty of companies online that do it. Set up that PO box address, that account with them, right, for a small fee every month. It's worth it, believe you me. And call yourself what you're going to put on the paperwork. Trustee, private trust. There's an idea. Call yourself anything. Yes.
This is new to me, guys. I didn't know this either, so I'm kind of asking questions as well because I'm learning. So you don't need to do you don't need to set up a trust here at all. It's just notifying DVLA that this is what you want on the logbook on the V5.
And under trust law, and if you read gov.uk, how the government how one of their executive agencies, which the DVLA is, how they define a trust, you know that they have to do it. There's plenty on trust law within gov.uk, and I've read it all. So I can hold, but I said, well, we can't do. Yes, you can. You can do that, and you have to do it. You know, this is my source of reference, gov.uk here. Well, they're a government agency. They've got to adhere to that. So again, supporting evidence. Yeah, back up what you say, guys. Always.
That's all it is, guys. Actually, in that regard, it's just yeah, facts. You deal in facts. You don't deal in opinion. You don't deal in any feelings. And I know that can be hard, actually, because when you first get into this stuff, you know, we're coming out of the matrix. We're primed to bring emotions into it, but this stuff doesn't require it. You can't do it properly with emotions. But know that I think the bottom line really is the system is a scam, to simplify the wording. But when you know that, then you will understand that there's always going to be a remedy in whatever situation you're getting into. And all it requires is your time to do research and work it all out.
I totally agreed. It's also, Gavin, I know we're going to get off. I think one last case in point, because I know your viewers like a good factual anecdote, and again, standing in your authority and having an understanding of the words. For example, we were bombarded with the word mandatory and mandate. You remember those times, and I was happened upon. I had my rights nearly violated, trespassed upon by a security guy at the beginning of COVID in Lidl, who tried to infringe my right to enter the store because I wouldn't put on a bacterial festoon slave rag. You know, I wasn't showing compliance. So I said to him, I said, well, you're clearly not the owner of this store, are you? He said, no. I said, well, only the owner can trespass me. And I said, the fact that under public law, you are open by way of public accommodation. You preventing me from entering the store, okay, is a criminal offence. It's false imprisonment. I said, secondly, you keep using the term mandatory. I said, do you understand what that means? I said, it's a prohibitive order, or it's an order that's trying to enforce me to do something. I said, so unless you have a writ signed by a judge, which only a prerogative, a prohibitive, or a writ of mandamus would have to be, that's the term mandatory. Mandatory without a judge's order signed or a writ signed is voluntary compliance. Well, that frazzled his programmed brain. I then said, you're trying to make me wear a medical procedure. Are you a licensed or registered nurse or doctor? Are you a medical practitioner? Right. And you say mandatory. Why are you making legal determinations? Are you a registered solicitor or barrister? I said, you're on thin ice. You're on tricky ground and you're liable. Well, again, he couldn't get me away from him quick enough. And I said, no, I'm finished with you. So I continued giving him an education. Okay. And I exposed his liability. I explained the other offences he was committing. I said, if you're going to force that on me, that's medical battery and assault. 3 offences, false imprisonment. This is open by way of public accommodation, public law. You are preventing me from going forward. That's false imprisonment. Look it up. Secondly, medical battery. Telling me I have to wear a medical device. He's making medical determinations and he's not licensed or registered as a practitioner. And then he's making legal determinations, okay, which spurious at best, fraudulent at worst. And if he's again trying to force me with coercion, it's assault. So assault, medical battery, false imprisonment. Again, I walked in, he off and he never bothered me again. In fact, he gave me a huge wide berth. And also the other fallacy we have out there is people's understanding of the common law. People say, I stand under the common law. So, okay, what is that? Is it an arch, a bridge? You're standing under it. What does that mean? What are you saying? Or they say that there is no common law. There is. If you were to Google right now, common law offences, right?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it live. You carry on talking. I'll get this.
Yeah.
I'll find it.
So if you Google common law offences, you'll have a whole list of common law offences, a whole list of them. So you've got, and the way it works is this, the duality. You've got common law offences running side by side with statutory offences. And you as a litigant can take your pick. You know, if a public servant, if somebody is acting against you, if the offences are of a criminal nature, so you have common law offences and statutory offences. And I had this conversation with a best mate of mine who's 21 years Met Police murder squad. And I said to him, I said, people don't think there's common law. I said, you see how quickly when you murder somebody, they get you in court up on a common law charge. And he laughed. He said, you're fucking right. The common law offence of murder. I said, so there is common law. You've just got to understand it's seen in this country as judges' rulings and precedent case law. But you have common law offences running concurrently side by side with statutory offences. And if the offences against you are criminal in nature, take your pick. Do you want to indict them on common law offences, or do you want to go after them on statutory offences? Does that help?
Massively. And just to prove the point, I very quickly put that into Google. Wikipedia's come up. Here's a bunch of these common law offences. Now, obviously, I've never checked this myself, guys, and it would be advisable to do a bit more double checking when you dig into this stuff. But it's all there. Google really is. It gives you what you basically need. Now, forget all the stuff about the deep state and bias and all that. We know about that stuff. So just use your noggin when you're doing it. But pretty much what you need is all on Google, and the common law is real.
Yeah, well, it's the 3 basic tenets of do no harm, injury, or loss.
There you go. Exactly.
As long as they're lawful contracts, keep them.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, most of the agreements, contractual, that we're entered into with these corporations are fraudulent. They don't offer really any consideration. They don't offer any of the tenets, the elements of a law-abiding contract, do they? So, keep your contracts with the living people that you've set them up with. The 2 living parties. Keep your contracts, your contractual obligations between 2 living parties, and cause no harm, injury, or loss. Simple. I hope that helps, guys.
It does. I'm hoping you guys, and I know you probably will, but I'm hoping you guys enjoy this video, the information that's been put out there. We're going to do a lot more of them, but what I think would be a good idea is you can see that Damian reads the comments. I don't get as much time to read the comments, but Damian's got some time to go through the comments. So what I was thinking, and Damian, please chip in if you disagree, but if you comment on the video around maybe the subject matter that we've expressed here today, If there's any other subjects you want us to dig into, or any of the subjects covered today that you might want us to expand upon, leave it in the comments. We will see it, and we'll use that as a guide to determine how or what topics we cover in the videos going forward that we shoot with Damian. And with that said, guys, thank you so much for your listening and your time, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks. See you soon.
See you later, guys. Love and light to you all.